This video is brought to you by GameMaker. And if you've ever wanted to get into game development, GameMaker does this really crazy thing where it's free. Just start making and only pay when you want to release your game to the world commercially.
It's fast, it's user-friendly, and there's easy-to-follow tutorials, plus a dedicated community to help answer even my questions. How make man jump? GameMaker is a 2D game engine that's helped bring some of yours and my favorite recent experiences to life, like UFO 50, Chicory, Anton Blast, and of course, Yahtzee's own Starstruck Vagabond.
Ooh, we talking about GameMaker? I love that program, it's so easy to use. As well as Starstruck Vagabond, I also used it to make all 12 projects in my 12 games in 12 months Dev Diary challenge. And I couldn't believe how much sex I got out of that. None. I got none at all. Which I couldn't believe.
So what are you waiting for? Head on over to the GameMaker link in the description and start cracking away today, because we want to play your game.
Yeah, looking through this list, I'm seeing one of you made Armpit Fart Tycoon, and I've got several questions for you.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Windbreaker podcast for Monday, April 14th. Marty here, joined as always by Jay and producer Eric. Yahtzee is out today. He's feeling a little bit under the weather.
He caught my flu.
We've lost an entire 50% of the Anglophile of this show, but luckily Nick was kind enough to step in as we discuss this week's topic, which is of roguelikes and roguelites, kind of given the new release of both Haste as well as Blueprints, which are two games with rogue elements to them, which the rogue elements have gotten a lot of attention because people seem excited about both games, and then a large percent of the audience will be like, rogue, and then bounce off, which I get because that's just become like the subgenre du jour across Steam, which we see in stuff like NextFest and everything. But we wanted to have just a larger topic about rogues, about RNG, about how we feel that this stuff is dabbling into our games and whether it's coming to AAA. So Nick, I know this is a topic you suggested that's near and dear to you. So what did you want to kind of kick off with there?
Yeah, it's kind of weirdly become almost my favorite genre of games over the last year or so. I feel like a lot of the games I'm playing and spending tens of hours in these days are roguelike games, and I kind of used to be in that same boat of like where people would hear procedural generation, be like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with that, and also RNG and randomness and all that. But I think maybe I've just like reverted to even more baby brain than I was in the past. But the amount of games I'm playing that are just number go up, or I love like the randomness of the artifacts you get for a lot of games that give you like the random buffs and passives and stuff like that. Deck builders have really become one of my favorite genres to play just because the strategy involved that I find with a lot of them. And so I think I was in the same boat where a lot of people fall into with the genre where they don't like the randomness because they're trying to just beat the game. And I think part of that actually comes back to when I started getting into the Souls-like genre and I stopped worrying about beating the game and started worrying more about learning the game. And I think that's a huge part of why that the genre is like so appealing to me now, is because I feel like I'm constantly learning as I play.
What game got you? Like, what was the game that really like transitioned you into the roguelike genre? Because for me, I was a bit poo-pooey on the genre as a whole. I played a few, this was like 10 years ago. But then I played Risk of Rain 2, and it's like it unlocked something in my head, and I was like, this genre is really cool. Like, what you can do with this is really interesting. What was that game for you, Nick?
I think it was Hades 2, or I mean Hades, the first one, as the first game that like really unlocked that for me, where I became really focused on like how do I min-max my build for the most powerful run when I get into it. I think what was the another one I played? I was Children of Morta, which is weirdly one of our most highest reviewed games ever back at the Escapist. I played that, and I think I played that right after Hades, and that's where I like ended up really loving the genre. because like the randomness kept feeding right back into the narrative, just like how Hades did. And so even though like the runs are repetitive, you're constantly progressing something, and I think that ends up being a lot of fun. Where like it's almost mindless gameplay, but it's not. It's kind of like right in that balance.
Yeah.
I think to I don't know if I'm devil's advocate or whatever. I feel like I'm slightly on the opposite side of the fence. There are a few games with roguelike elements, that roguelite elements mostly, that I enjoy, but I am kind of in the camp where when I see that subgenre applied to what feels like every other indie game that gets announced at showcases or demos we check out at Next Fest, my eyes kind of gloss over, and I feel like that happens to any big trend. I think we got that with open world games. I think we got that with kind of Souls-like combat and everything, and
Metroidvanias as well.
Metroidvania, yeah. Although Metroidvania is one I could do forever, so maybe that just proves the point that different strokes for different folks. And I think mostly it's because I do kind of want an experience that has a beginning, a middle, and a clear end. And maybe that's just I watch a lot of movies and TV that have clear beginning, middles, and end, and I kind of want the same thing for my games. And the idea of something becoming my 100-hour forever game where I'm just repeating, runs in Blotro or Dead Cells or Enter the Gungeon or something kind of seems like a nightmare to me.
See, I'm like I'm in a really weird boat with my gaming taste right now, because like I grew up playing, Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, all that kind of stuff, open world RPGs. And lately I've found it like extremely hard to stick with those games and stay invested in them unless the writing is really good, just because like I'm still working through Assassin's Creed Shadows like every now and again, but the quests are just also the same. Listen to this person talk, go kill this guy, go listen to another person talk, go kill this guy, maybe traverse through the map a little bit, maybe a little puzzle here or there, but it feels so rote, like there's no thinking behind it. Where in a lot of these, I'm gonna stick to talking about like deck builders here for a second. Like you are repeating the same thing over and over again, but it's just changed enough in between each run to make it feel fresh and keep me coming back to try different builds, try different strategies to win, try, like a good example is like Monster Train has like five different clans you can choose from, and they all have different strategies around them. Like some are poison, some stack fire, just for an example. And so like you can min-max the different clans that you pair together and keep getting a different strategy every time. So maybe I'm just becoming more of a strategy gamer.
Yeah, I think there's so much you can talk about with this genre, and why it like gets its hooks into people, and like balance and stuff like that. But one of the things you just said there, Nick, that stuck in my brain was keep coming back. Like what about it is bringing you back to the game? And I think the genre kind of lends itself to the idea of putting it down and picking it back up again. Like we were talking about Dave the Diver last week, Marty, and how it was so overwhelming with a lot of its content and what it was throwing at you, to the point where coming back to that game is a little bit of a chore. Like you're like, what was I doing? Where am I? What's happening? Even though it does have rogue elements and like the procedural elements, but it has so much content in it that it's hard to come back to. But a game like Risk of Rain 2 or Neon Abyss or Slay the Spire, you can come back and start a new run, and it's effectively onboarding you again with its systems like every run. So it's easy to come back to, which I think is something that lends itself to being an accessible genre.
It's almost the difference between like catching a random episode of a long form TV show and being like, what was going on before this? Or sitting down and watching like a random sport, like a random football game or basketball game or something.
Yeah, or like an episode of Adventure Time, you can just come back and
exactly. You don't kind of need that. Why do you think, from kind of a designer developer standpoint, Jay, why do you think that this has become kind of such a subgenre du jour when it comes to?
I'm going to misquote him, and I apologize if you ever listen to this. I remember a quote from the Slay the Spire developer who said that roguelikes don't necessarily need to be balanced because of the randomness and the repeating nature of them. You can have things be obscenely powerful because they're only going to see them in every 50 runs. And I've spoken a lot in my show about the idea of juxtaposition gratification, of having runs that fail and don't get very far. So when that God run does come along, it feels amazing, right? Because you're able to go through. And I think that's why a lot of developers pick this up, is because it's a system where, procedural generation is nothing to put your nose up at. It is difficult to do, but once you have those systems in place, you can create lots of these extremely powerful and interesting ideas and keep your players hooked for a very long time. And I think that's what developers want, right? They want their players to keep playing and spending money. So this is like the go-to for get your hooks in the players with systems, in my opinion.
I think it's easy. Like if you have a really, really good core gameplay loop, and then you add in the roguelike thing, and then just variations of that core gameplay loop, I think that it's obviously cost effective for developers to work on games like that. One game that was just revealed in that Triple I showcase, Voidbreaker. It's a roguelike FPS with destruction. Like really good destruction actually, and essentially the game, the trailer didn't do anything to sell me on it, but when I played it over the weekend, it's got an open alpha right now. I was immediately sold on it because it has everything I really like in it right now. It's got it's basically you're doing runs to escape, and as you go through, like you get branching paths, basically, the roguelike map you see in all of them now, where you start here and then you have a branching path, and then here's the reward. But they really do a good job of adding secrets on the way for you to find, or the combat encounters are all varied up and fresh every time. The buffs that you get for your weapons can turn your pistol into a rocket launcher and stuff like that. So it really is just that seeing what happens on each run, I think, is what I find so addicting in these games now. If that core loop is strong enough.
Yeah. I think it is also probably, it's not easy to make one of these games, but it's probably more economical to make a procedural generation system and then have that expand into being able to play a game for 50 or 100 hours and get enjoyment out of it. Yeah, as opposed to if you had to handcraft the bespoke make 100 hours worth of levels that were all different from each other. It's just not economical for these relatively small teams. And I think it is something that we're seeing this mostly in the indie space. Granted, some of these games are kind of the upper crust of indies, like your Hades 2 is kind of the it's hit the ceiling of indie and
you're
feels like it's
getting
close
into
to
AA territory, I think, in the Hades space.
Yeah. Why we haven't really seen this in AAA, or should I say we're starting to see it. We saw it in Returnal. And then modes in other games, like post-release God of War Ragnarok had the Valhalla mode that had that. Prey had that Moon Crash DLC back in the day. Last of Us added the mode into The Last of Us 2. Do you think that do you think we're gonna see a big kind of AAA roguelike? Do you think these will still kind of be modes peppered into other things?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, they're selling a lot of these games have sold very, very well. Wild Frost, Slay the Spire, Monster Train. I mean, those are all deck builders, but obviously you have Hades and Children of Morta sold really well. So I think I don't know. AAA is just really weird right now. I don't want to get too far into that discussion, but I kind of said it in one of my Unpacked videos. How have they not looked at Phasmophobia, which has sold 23 million copies, and made a big budget version of that yet? How do we not? What does a big budget version of that look like? What does a big budget version of a deck builder look like?
Yeah,
is that a thing?
AAA is not mobile, or not? Not nimble enough to kind of be able to do that. So maybe that stuff's in the works, but it takes a long time, which is why you end up seeing, an Overwatch clone years after Overwatch kind of peaked. You see games that are like, ooh, why did you put this in development back when a thing was in vogue, and by the 6 years later when it comes out, your Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. People are kind of sick of that genre.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Sorry, Nick, carry on.
No, I was gonna say the other genre that's taking off with the roguelites is city builders and RTS games. I'm playing one right now that I spent way too much time playing this weekend. Nordhold. So it's a tower defense. Nordhold with a D at the end.
Sorry.
Thanks to our sponsor NordVPN.
It's a tower defense game that's also a roguelike, and so you have like this city area that you're defending, and so in the city area you have to strategize of like where you place your workers to build up resources so that you can keep building towers. And so after each wave you choose part of the map to explore, and it goes in a new direction, and you can open up different branching paths and all that. But there's also like it's got the artifact system of roguelikes where like after a certain amount of waves you get a random modifier that buffs or buffs things or debuffs the enemies or whatever. It's just another super addicting thing. Somebody mentioned in the chat Against the Storm, which has taken off. There's another one that is on my list to play, Cataclysmo, where a lot of these games are like... A building game isn't a roguelite though, right? Isn't a building game just a building? Like SimCity, every round is different just by virtue of how you choose. No, but they're adding in the roguelike mechanics on these things of your run can end. So like one of the ones that's becoming popular is like this Cataclysmo game. Basically, you build up your city and you survive waves of enemies trying to take over your city. And you get random modifiers and stuff as you go, and it resets if you lose your city. So that's where like kind of that roguelike progression comes in.
Yeah.
It's
easy to, and this is kind of going back to the AAA space thing. Roguelike elements are easy to add on to a pre-existing genre. It's like an affix you can add, like it's being added to city builders. But with AAA, I feel one of the issues we're seeing is the fact that a lot of these are modes that are being experimented in, like we saw with the Valhalla mode and stuff like that. And maybe the publishers and the executives are seeing that they might be doing well, and maybe they're not, because they are tacked on like modes onto other games that aren't really dabbling like their toes into it, which means maybe AAA developers aren't going whole hog in it because they've seen not a huge return from those modes, like not a lot of people are playing them. But maybe that's because you're not going whole hog, right? If
that's like a chicken and
huge
the egg
AAA
scenario.
game did it, right? It would be insane. Like the scalability of it, and seeing a AAA team tackle that would be wild. But I just don't think they're willing to take that risk. Whereas indies have.
None of the like Red Dead and GTA don't.
No.
Like they have online, obviously, which comes with its own bag of tricks. But I guess you said it's big devs, but it's usually like an addendum to another mode. It's a Last of Us mode. It's a God of War mode. It's not the core game.
I think the depending on how the success of what's it called, that new game from Housemarque.
Sonos or something.
Sonos,
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah. I think depending on the success of that, we might see more. I just think there hasn't been one that's like in the AAA space, like Jay said, kind of blown the market open for it.
Yeah,
but who knows what the AAA space is going to look like in 5 years after all these layoffs and are reducing budgets on massive projects and stuff like that.
I think Sonic's going to be fine, and that's all that really matters to me. As long as that hedgehog's fine and he's still kissing human women, then everything's going to be fine. Saros was the name of that game from the Returnal devs. I think I don't know. For me, like maybe this is just snobbish, but there's something about a like bespoke handcrafted level that will always feel special to me in a way that a procedurally generated map won't. and maybe it's nostalgia talking, but like, you know, I recently went back and did replays of stuff like Chrono Trigger and Super Metroid, and granted, those are like two of the literal greatest games of all time. But like their maps are unforgettable to me. Each screen has so much character to it, and like tells a story in a way that when I see runs in games like Dead Cells or even just the layout of things in Hades compared to some of the previous games, like it feels different to me. Like it feels different to me, and not in necessarily a good way.
Well,
But that just might be old man shaking fist at clouds kind of thing.
I don't think it's that. I think it's just people play those games for the gameplay loop first, everything else second.
Yeah,
you're more of a narrative. You know, want to be immersed in atmosphere,
sure, and kind of vibes and stuff. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, but I do think like you can have both. I think Returnal proves you can have both.
Yeah, because Returnal has those like set piece kind of things you do that everyone's going to do, but then the corridors on the way there are you know procedurally generated, and like stuff like RNG obviously exists in all genres of games, you know, from the JRPG random encounters to you know lucky loot drops or bosses, a Souls boss using or not using an attack, and you being able to get by the skin of your teeth, or like, you know, percentages in Fire Emblem or XCOM, which are lies. I know those are lies. They won't ever come out and say it, but any game that says you have a 95% chance of doing this, it's a lie. I know it's a lie.
The XCOM ones are a lie, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of RNG, though, like all three of us have played Blueprints, so I released my essay this morning, and I'm surprised at the amount of, and even on social media, I'm surprised at the amount of people that are really frustrated by the RNG elements of that game, where I never felt annoyed by it, and I never felt like it impeded my progress. And I think part of that was because I didn't go, I think with like something like Blueprints, you can't go in to win. You have to go in to learn. And
to experience it.
Yeah, the repetition is part of winning. And I think a lot of people are kind of going into it as a straight up puzzle game of like, I can solve this and the RNG is impeding my progress, rather than using the RNG to keep finding new rooms and keep learning.
Yeah. I had a bit of a unique experience with it, so I can sympathize a little bit. So we were extremely fortunate, like we are a lot of times, to get the game early, and all of us were playing it. I was playing it in my free time. I've absolutely love it. There would have been a design delve on it, but I knew Nick was making this video. Wonderful video, by the way, Nick. So I had a unique experience in the sense of I played it for weeks. I played like 30 to 40 days worth of the runs in the shared account that we have. And then when the game came out, fantastic game, want to support the devs, support indie devs. So I went to my Steam and I bought it myself. And I was like, I'll do my own run. The game is very interesting if you've played it before, because you know the solutions, like all of the safes and all of the little puzzles. I could just go up to a safe and put the code in because I remember it and take the thing and leave. So I was ready to find, no spoilers, I was ready to find the solution to get to the big door, the final 46th room, in a couple days of in-game runs. But then I was just waiting for everything to line up so I could do it, right? And that became frustrating to me, but only because I knew what I was doing, right? It was like a secondary playthrough thing.
Yeah, Blueprints is one of the rare examples of roguelike, and it is a roguelite because there are certain things that you can carry between between runs. One of those rare examples where I did really love the game, and the roguiness of it didn't really bother me at all until close to the end, because I think for so much of the game it was less about I wasn't playing it wanting to do a specific thing. I was mostly playing it just to deal with the cards I was dealt and seeing if I could get a little bit further and seeing, oh, this is a new room, or this is a new mechanic, or I had like a million balls in the air. And so that was fine. But when I would get closer to the end and I was like, I know what I need to do, it felt like that. What did you Jay, when you made the video about the worst puzzle ever, you we're talking about like time to solution or something, where the time between knowing what to do and physically doing it. And that was the only time in the game where I really started to feel that, was when I was like, I know what to do, but now I'm at the mercy of the RNG gods. And granted, there are smart ways to manipulate RNG to ensure that things will happen your next run, so you can kind of set yourself up for success. That was the only time the kind of RNG stuff really stood out to me as like noticeable, I guess.
I agree. Yeah, it's really difficult. Like, I genuinely think Blueprints might be one of the best puzzle games ever made. I think it's like hands down incredibly designed. I just think if I could give any tiny bit of criticism, it would be once you know the player has unlocked and this is difficult because a lot of the barriers to entry in this game are knowledge, and you can't quantify whether the player has knowledge. You can show them the piece of paper, but you cannot do a check of whether they understand it, right? So this is why I don't think this is strictly possible, but maybe thinking of a way to have it so that you kind of know that the player is at the point where they know what to do, they know how to finish the game, and then maybe tweaking the RNG a little bit so that it leans them more towards success. So for example, no spoilers, I had done the thing to find the last room, but I still had like half of the entire map to do. And I was terrified of drawing a room and it not going to the final room. Like, music had started playing, like, you have done the thing, you are on the final journey, right? And I was like, if I draw a room and it's a dead end, if it's the lavatory, I'm going to kill myself. Like, and I was genuinely nervous, but I was like, has Tonda put in systems where that once that music starts, once they understand you're on the final steps, you can't run into dead ends on the way, because that would just feel that would feel god awful. And I'm sure there are systems like that in place, and maybe there are other systems like that as well. For me specifically, the experience I had was I played the game nearly to completion and then started a new game. No one's ever going to do that, right? But I do understand what you're saying, Mai, for sure.
Yeah, I actually had a little bit of that because I played the demo before the full game, and I figured out how to unlock a handful of permanent upgrades in the demo and stuff. And so when I did get in the full game, I was like, okay, as soon as I get to the garage, I know what to do to kind of go outside and that kind of thing. But I didn't get that far. I didn't finish the whole game or anything. Yeah, and it's interesting, the idea of presenting the solution and then presenting the player with a test to make sure they actually know how. It's like showing your work on a test, right? You can't just write down the right answer to a math test. You have to show your work. And The Witness, which is another game that gets sometimes compared to Blueprints, did a similar thing to where 99% of the puzzles in the game, you could just look up the solution online, and you can never actually learn. You don't have to learn the logic behind it. But the final challenge of the game is this thing called the challenge, where you have to complete all of these puzzles in the time that the song, the Hall of the Mountain King, is playing. And the puzzles are random. So it uses the same rules that you've learned throughout the game, but you can't look at a solution. You can't follow a guide because my puzzles are going to be different than your puzzles. The only similarity is that they use the same rule set that is never broken, which I think is a smart thing to do at the very end of a game like that.
RNG.
With Blueprints, I was able to almost essentially get around the RNG. Maybe a very, very slight spoiler, but there is a room called the laboratory where you can use a thing that basically sets some parameters for you to get some permanent upgrades. And so when I felt like I was getting stuck because of the RNG of not being able to get enough resources, if you use that room and prioritize that room, which you can kind of push to spawn depending on the rooms you choose, I believe is what I kind of figured out. That really made my experience much easier as I went through. But
I also
go ahead.
Okay.
Nope, go ahead. I was done.
I think part of that, like we're describing this slight frustration, I think that is a huge part of the experience and is intended. Like if it was just you just have to have the information and then you can finish the game, it would become, let's look everything up. Let's just like find the way to do this. I think the frustration we're feeling when we're going in and we're not quite getting to the point where we want to be, having that is delaying the gratification of getting a new room, right? And then getting a little bit further and stuff like that. And you have to have some of that failure and some of that dead ends to make the straight hallway. There was this instance where I got like a corridor, a spare room, and then like one of the 4 hallway ones in a row, like dead center, and I was like, I've hit the fucking jackpot. Like, this is so good. And without the dead ends, you wouldn't have that feeling, right? Yeah. So I think it's part of the experience.
Yeah, it not in the chat says there are a lot of permanent upgrades that I don't think most people have found at this point. One in particular lets you nudge the RNG towards particular strategies pretty strongly. Yeah, like I think the people that are really bouncing off it are just do not like RNG. And if you can get past that and just, like I kind of said, I think a lot of people will go into roguelites wanting to beat it on the first go, and that's just not how they're played.
No, or like don't like puzzle games. Like this is, it's like Myst. It's more about information and how you are taking information down. There's a reason why the game says bust out on a notepad, like write stuff down, because there's so much information that you need to take in. But that's obscenely satisfying. Like I absolutely adore that stuff.
I love having a game where I have like insane person scribblings on a physical notepad where I'm like writing down things and taking pictures of the screen with my phone. Because I know like a year from now I'm going to look at my like photo gallery on my phone and I'm going to scroll past and be like, what the fuck was all this? Like what? I saw pictures of like Lorelei and the laser eyes from last year. I'm just like, this is insane.
I cannot wait to tell you about my game, dude. Yeah, I think you're gonna like some aspects of it.
I'm fucking stoked.
But yeah, I think this is a roguelike is a genre that I think you either need to go whole hog and make your entire experience about it, or use it as an accent on an already established genre. And I think Blueprints has done a very innovative thing by splashing in roguelike elements into a Myst-like information gathering puzzle game, and it makes the pacing of it entirely player driven and makes those discoveries feel player driven rather than like, oh, I'm walking into the next area and this is where the puzzle is. It's like you can unlock rooms, gather information, like you can find the solution, and I usually hate this, but not know where to input that information, right? And that's like a new puzzle. I know the answer, but where does it go? And it's constantly bouncing between those things. I think it's obscenely good. I could talk about it all day.
Senwa does make a good point. Said I thought it was going to give me a notepad or journal when it said that, and it never did. It would be. I think one thing I would like to see added to Blueprints is having a notebook in game that could keep track.
Oh, so you could type in your actual.
Yeah, or highlight pictures that you took or whatever, something like that. Something that you can carry. Yeah, carry a bit more information with you would be nice. The other roguelike, I don't know which one it is, that I got really addicted to last month was Nice and Tight Spaces. So that one's the deck builder strategy game where you're basically it's a tactics game. So you use the map to your advantage and everything like that, and the addicting loop of that game of like going through the campaign, and you start with the same set like every time depending on the fighter you choose, but they all have different strategies and everything to use, just like I said, like Monster Train. But then the roguelike comes in when you're like upgrading your deck as you go and then unlocking permanent upgrades and everything. So I think what I really love about the genre is just like that power building fantasy, I guess, because you really get that in like the FPS ones too, where a good one would be what was that Robo game I played earlier this year?
RoboCop. That could be anything.
RoboQuest. So it's a FPS roguelite, and you're going through, and you're pretty under-leveled, underpowered at the start. And as you keep fighting and keep going, you keep unlocking more permanent progression. You keep exploring the map and finding upgrades, and then you just keep getting more and more and more powerful. And like the really good ones really do a good job of balancing that, so that like the beginning becomes easier and easier as you go, and then you get to the next section, and that's really hard, and then it keeps getting easier and easier and easier. Like I love that loop.
So yeah, that's a good question. Is the idea of that's a roguelike, a light. So it's has the elements of permanent progression. Yeah. Do you? And this goes to you as well, Marty, as someone who's not a huge fan of the genre. Do you prefer games that do it in a light fashion, where you have more permanent progression upgrades, or do you prefer likes where it's more about trying to RNG get the god run and blast through? What do you prefer?
I like having some permanent progression. So I prefer lights. Your Hades, your Rogue Legacy. I mean, the handfuls that I have enjoyed have been lights. That being said, lights have like a weird difficulty curve that I think it might have been like a Game Maker's Toolkit video talking about how roguelites are weird because they have the inverse difficulty curve of ostensibly it just gets easier. It starts off incredibly hard and gets easier and easier and easier and easier. Mm-hmm. And by the end, it's kind of a cakewalk. Whereas most games kind of are the opposite and ramp up, and the end should be your final challenge. So yeah, I always find that a little
It's a huge part of why they're so popular.
Yeah. Like I know one of the games folks kept recommending to Yahtzee, I think it came out last year, maybe, was that Caves of Qud, Qud, Caves of Qud.
Yeah.
But I believe that is a true rogue like. That is a true no progression.
That is I think if you were talking about the same game, that like almost on the same complexity level as Dwarf Fortress.
Yeah, it even looks a little bit like that. It has sort of that really old school ASCII art kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do we think this is... It feels like whenever one of these subgenres becomes huge, eventually the bubble bursts, right? We've mentioned it before. I mean, with any sort of multiplayer thing, hero shooters, battle royale, Souls-like, open world, something like there's kind of a saturation point, and then people kind of get sick of it and gloss over. And even when I hear deck building, when I hear roguelike, I'm starting to feel that. Do we think that this is going to peter out eventually, and then it'll just kind of be another subgenre that's for the hardcore fans, or does it feel like this is a thing that's here to stay?
Weirdly, I actually don't feel like this one has a bubble. I'll try to make it sound as unsnobbish as possible. But the roguelike genre and roguelike genre just remind me of like mobile games and the addictive nature of just coming back to those for, one more run while you're taking a shit kind of game. The genre reminds me so much of like that kind of core gameplay loop, where if you just make it varied up and feel good to play and keep the randomness of it interesting enough, I feel like they're an easy sell.
They're an easy sell, but there's still, I think, a decent. We saw in comments to the Haste video and the blueprints and stuff, people just being like, "Man, I would have loved this, but I heard roguelike and I tapped out." So I do think that there's like a specific percentage of the audience who's just like not for me, which I guess is literally every genre. There's people where Souls-like aren't for them, or Metroidvanias.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be as popular as it is right now forever, obviously.
Sure.
Because like even the survival crafting genre isn't producing as many games as we used to get from that genre.
Yeah.
Like, the big ones really stand out, and the middling ones kind of fall by the wayside pretty quick.
I mean, I guess that's also a thing, is we only tend to talk about the cream of the crop. We're not talking about the thousands of roguelites and likes that have released over the past 10 years that no one played or were bad. We're talking about the Slay the Spires and everything, like the best of the best.
Well, I think there's two sides to this. I think just with anything, I kind of agree with Nick that I don't think the bubble is going to burst with this, but there would have been the opportunity for that to happen if people weren't innovating in the genre and also adding it when it makes sense. Haste, which is ostensibly like an infinite running game where you run endlessly. It makes sense for me that it has a rogue element added to it, like because you can the randomization, the endless nature of it lends itself to the genre itself. I think that makes sense, and as long as games are doing that, that's fine, rather than just tacking it on for reasons. And like Blueprints is a great example of a game that has taken an established genre and then added roguelike elements to elevate it to another level. And as long as developers are trying to do that, like this could happen with Metroidvanias. If every Metroidvania that came out was just Hollow Knight but with a different skin, people would probably stop liking it. We need people to try and, what can we do to push the genre forward? And Blueprints for me is doing that for puzzle games, not necessarily roguelites. It's using it as some spice in the puzzle game genre.
I saw what you did there, a little Salt Bay. I like that.
Yeah, I don't even know if it needs to push the genre forward. Just putting you in different scenarios. Like somebody in chat mentioned Tape to Tape, which is a hockey roguelite. How long before we get a football roguelite or a soccer roguelite or a basketball roguelite? I mean, I think there's already a basketball roguelite in development, but you can. I think roguelites as a mechanic, kind of like you said, Jay, just can be kind of just added on to an existing loop.
It's a form of progression in a way.
Yeah,
it's a different form of progression rather than linear.
And
it can be added for sure.
Yeah, I do like the you mentioned it with Blueprints, and it's sort of a step sibling to this, but the kind of, for lack of a better term, Metroidvania. The idea of things where if you have the knowledge, you can do things extremely quickly, but it takes you a while to get that knowledge. And I kind of love that in stuff like Tunic or The Witness or Outer Wilds. And Blueprints absolutely does that.
You have to have so much restraint as a player, though, to do that. We live in an age where I love and hate this. We had this problem with Elden Ring and Blueprints and stuff when we get things early and you hit a puzzle or a challenge and you go, I've spent way too much time on this. I don't think I'm going to get this. I'm going to look it up. And then you're like, oh shit, there's no information out about the game. And you have to force yourself to do it. And I love that moment because I'm like, no, go back. And I feel gratification from overcoming that challenge. Mm-hmm. But it does take a lot for players nowadays to be like, no, I'm going to figure this out myself, instead of just being like, what is the code to this safe in Blueprints? I'm just going to go look it up. What is the puzzle here? Like Nick, you mentioned in your video, my obsession with the clock room, the den in.
Did you figure it out?
Not yet. I'm still hunting. Whether there's a thing or not, because I could easily right now just Google it, right? Like, is there a thing here? But I've become so obsessed with it myself that I'm trying to figure it out. You have to show restraint as a player to not just give up and look things up. And I think any game that adds RNG elements through a roguelike or whatever so that it's effectively harder to make guides. I'd love to play a game that was anti-games media and was impossible to make guides for. Everything's RNG and everything you have to figure out yourself. I would love that, but maybe that's just because we're games media peeps and
playing games like this before release, or even a Souls game, to where it's just
before it's
I kind of like that small span where it's I can't even be tempted to look shit up. When we were playing Blueprints, I'm I can't look things up. There's nothing to look up here. There's no Google results for any of this. So those are always kind of fun. But then also, that was Animal Well, and then once Animal Well was released, I was like, all right, I've reached the limit of how smart I am. Now let me look up this stuff I didn't understand. And I was like, oh god, that was too smart.
I was so proud with Billy when I made my episode, and I was talking to him. And the game had just released when we did our meeting, and he was like, "Have you played?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've completed the game and I've got all the eggs." And he was like, "Oh, you got all the eggs?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did it by myself. I didn't look anything up." And he was like, "Damn." And I was like, I was so proud of myself because I was I couldn't look things up, dude. There was no information out about the game.
Trust me, I would have tried at some point, but I literally couldn't.
And that's a point of pride for me now, and I think that's missing from a lot of gamers' experiences, right?
Yeah.
Turns out the world does in fact need games journalists.
I'll be honest,
also
To tell
listen,
you
there's plenty of things where I'm like,
the codes to these things.
yeah, absolutely, 100%. Awesome. Let's transition over to super chats.
Oh, yes.
There's all sorts of stuff that I know we
The
can
suppies.
bounce off of. And thank you so much, folks who've already sent their super chats in. Members of the Green Gang, great to see you. Of course, members of our $5 Patreon, we see you out there. Thank you so much. You're getting all sorts of goodies this month. Let me tell you, you're getting. Nick has an exclusive chat with the developer of Blueprints Tonda himself over on Patreon. If you're at that $5 tier and above, and we got some good videos from Jack. We got some group videos coming. We got some weird shit. I, for one, am here for the weird shit. But right off the bat, Dr. Theo, thank you so much with a $5 dono. Off topic, but today is the 22nd anniversary of everyone's favorite bad game, Postal 2. It's getting an official VR port soon as well. Who wants to live in this world in VR? What is
That's some
happening?
nasty shit. Like, I think if someone said, "What's your favorite game?" and they said Postal 2 VR, I'd call the police.
Yeah,
like,
put them on a watch
I'd be
list
like,
of
"You've done
sorts.
something, right?" Like,
I mean, half a VR.
are
games
they
out there-
frozen?
Half of VR games out there about how to brutally murder
Did you guys
people.
hear what I just said?
Yes. Why do you stop yelling at us?
That was wild. You guys froze on my screen and were just sat there like this, but then suddenly responded to what I said. That was wild. That was crazy.
When you yelled "they're frozen," I thought for a second you were talking about like the VR game or something, and I was like, "What?" And then you're. I thought you were so excited about what you said, you wanted us to repeat what you said, and I was like, "Oh, sure."
There's this guy on Instagram that I've been watching. He plays VR games, and one of them I think it's called Hard Bullet, and it's basically John Wick simulator, but like it's just about how badly you can brutally murder the bad guys, and it is deeply.
That's gonna be his type of game, Postal 2 VR.
Yeah, I don't know how people make VR look and play like that good. But I mean, they must have like the whole room set up with like multiple cameras,
big rooms.
So, like 5 sensors instead of 2. I don't even know if you can do that, but yeah,
just keep putting sensors in. Your whole life is a sensor. Fox D, don't know. Thank you so much, Fox D. Quote, roguelike has joined, quote, cozy on my list of adjectives to be very cautious of when it comes to indie games. AAA levels of unoriginality there. Yeah, they're also...
Can be.
It's also weird because it doesn't tell you what the game is. It tells you something about the game, but it is not... If you say we talked about roguelikes that were deck builders, that were top-down action games, that were Metroidvanias, that were the first-person puzzle games, that were shooters, like that were hockey games. Like it doesn't, just that word, it's like action adventure. It kind of doesn't mean anything. Like you need to dig deep into the nitty-gritty. And the same thing with cozy. Like cozy is a modifier.
Yeah. I've said it 1,000 times with on this podcast and on DevHeads. Genre is bullshit. It's just like a really bad way of conveying a lot of information in a short span of time. And because of that, you as a consumer have to have a lot of, initiative to be like, does this small description of like a roguelike interest me enough? Like like robots and roguelike, does that interest me enough to click on this to see further what it is? Right?
Yeah.
Like that's what you have to think about when you see these genre names. Unless the game is just like a capital R roguelike and that's all it's doing and it's just copying other games. You just have to
copying Rogue. Yeah.
You have to move in and think, okay, I want to get more information about this, because 90% of games will have their own unique thing, but they can't put that in the genre description because there isn't a genre for it.
Because you need to be able to consume it instantly when you see the name of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I feel the same way when like people complain about procedurally generated these days. It's like I saw that a lot in the Discovery Queue comments about Haste and like being annoyed that it was procedurally generated maps. Like that game wouldn't really work without the procedurally generated maps, because you would, once you figured out the path to take on each one, then the loop would be kind of over for how to move through.
It makes perfect sense that game is a roguelike. It's exactly what it needs to be. I agree.
I mean, I disagree that the loop. I mean, Mario is not procedurally generated, and people replay Mario all the time. Sonic.
Yeah, but
Why am I defending Sonic? What's happening?
But if you had handcrafted levels for haste, I think it would get very boring very quickly.
Sure.
Because
I mean,
you would know, like, on each run you take, you would know the exact path to take every time.
unless it did the Sonic thing where you have kind of branching paths and you have high paths and low paths and medium paths and they blend together. But then that's an entirely different thing. Look at Sonic. Look at Sonic surfing down San Francisco.
Oh my god! I don't think haste would be ruined for that inclusion. I think it's better for what it is now. Like it's a better game for the roguelike elements added to it in this procedural generation.
Yeah, I think people, when it comes to like procedural generation, because like it was like an overused thing, I think years ago, where like the maps were really bland and everything. But like I think it's got to a point where there's enough handcrafted stuff in the maps that you don't really notice the procedural generation unless they tell you.
People misunderstand what procedural generation is. People think like it's random, but it's not. It's following a procedure. Like it's following a set of rules it needs to create. I made a video years ago on my personal channel about Terraria and their use of procedural generation. And there are core areas that game has, and the dungeon, for example, will always be on the far left or the far right of the map. That's its procedure. The same for like the location of hell or the jungle or stuff like that. And then within that, yes, the areas are randomly generated for a procedure, but there's always going to be specific bosses, specific like items and resources within those things. So it allows for a little bit of like variation through gameplay, but also targeted exploration. So it's God, Terraria is so good.
It's a good way to put it. It is insane how much that game has sold as well.
Yeah.
Like Terraria is like one of the best selling games of all time.
I have like 500 hours in that game. Yeah, like it's
Jesus.
I love it.
Hell yeah. Alex Armstrong with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Alex. I know we recommend a lot of games to Yahtzee, but story-wise, this might intrigue him. Peppered, a 2D existential platformer that released last week.
Yeah, I've seen that one on social media quite a bit.
Delicious.
Let's have a look. Is it on Steam?
I'm Googling it. Yeah, there's a man falling. There you go. Peppered. We'll add that to Yahtzee's big old maybe.
Yeah, I'll
list.
take a look.
I like to look at that game. Maho Yusei, thank you so much for a $5 dono. Figures that the rogue Mortimer / Yahtzee is out sick on the roguelike day. I'm gonna be honest, if Yahtzee were here, it probably would have been a much more negative conversation. It doesn't matter what the topic would have been. It probably would have just been a much more negative conversation. But I think he would have. I think he would have really dug into this and been angry at it.
And there would have been a lot more like obscure British references for sure.
That's true. Yeah, he would have. But yeah, fucking Charlie Chaplin was a roguelike.
Dib
is that man even British?
That's for you, Yachts.
Shout out to Dib Dabs.
What's British?
Charlie Chaplin.
Everything.
Sure.
Charlie Chaplin's American, isn't he?
I don't know. He's got the Hitler stash.
I think he's famously American.
Doing that anymore. Can't do that anymore. He was silent. We don't know what he. That's the problem.
We don't know. He didn't have an accent. Wait, no, he was an English actor. He's English.
Charlie's
and he's
like a real
I take it back.
Name.
I take it back. I've fallen victim to that. I never heard him talk.
You're a Charlie Chaplin truther. Beast March with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, Beast March. Afternoon, gentlemen. I hope Yahtzee gets well soon. Yeah, he's just feeling a little under the weather. We were in a meeting with him this morning. He's still alive. He baked a key lime pie over the weekend. So
whatever's going around like doesn't make you feel too sick. It's just like sick enough to where it's like, ew.
Yeah, and he sounded all like monkey.
Yeah.
That's not.
And also like people don't really think about it, but being on stream it takes a lot of energy, right? And if he's only got a certain amount of energy in the day, then
that's why I just do a ton of barbiturates right before we stream. My window a little bit. Alex Armstrong with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, Alex Armstrong. The first roguelike I ever played was Earth Overclocked. I don't know what Earth Overclocked is. We're learning about all sorts of new games today.
I love this.
A frantic roguelite adventure game starring a scientist who is terrible at making time machines, but great at blasting bad guys.
I'll get blasted.
This looks a little bit
I love this, like... Carry on.
No, just that the sort of that top-down action. That's like the one of the flavors of roguelike is like Binding of Isaac, Enter the Gungeon.
Binding of Isaac, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was
what
the
were you
game
gonna
that
say?
started it all.
Overclocked.
I just love it was from like last Windbreaker and seemingly in this one as well. I love it when you guys donate to just give us game recommendations. I fucking love that.
It was the best. I looked something up I've ever seen before, and I'm like, oh, now I've seen it.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex. Juicy Jeff with a $10 dono. Thank you, Juicy Jeff. The demo for Lost in Random, The Eternal Die was so good that it made me purchase the first game. Kind of a shame they stripped the unique world, combat, and art style down to a Hades clone, but it also works.
That is such a weird story behind those games because it's completely different developer now too. The original developer doesn't exist anymore. Then
interesting.
Then they went and formed the founders went and formed a new studio, and they're working on that Midnight Walk game that looks really good.
It comes out next month.
Yeah, and then now this game is like a completely separate team continuing,
but just using the IP.
Yeah,
using the IP, but then doing something completely different in it. Because
Yeah.
at least like the same thing is happening with Little Nightmares, but Little Nightmares 3 looks like Little Nightmares 1 and 2. Like they didn't just suddenly take Little Nightmares and turn it into like a Hades-esque roguelike.
And the OG team are going off to make Little Nightmares again, just with a slightly different
with a different
And
name.
we're also
That's
probably
just
going to see the same thing with a Disco Elysium. All the devs have left that team, obviously, but they're doing a new thing.
We're gonna have like 10
it's-
different Elysium likes.
Eric and I were
My God.
we still have the research. I need to do that Unpacked episode on. I was going to do all the different Disco Elysium likes that are coming from like 5 different studios. It's really complicated. And
it's not
What
even
happened
games
to
inspired
battles?
by it. It's games that literally have some of the DNA of people who made the original.
It happened in the roguelike genre. We saw the same with oh god, what's the shit? We played it at GDC, Nick.
we played a lot of things at GDC, buddy.
We played 2 of the things we named today at GDC. I've got to go to my library. There's a team that
Which
made
GDC this year or last year?
Last year.
Oh no, trying to make me.
Yeah, I know. I've got it in my
It was a
my
roguelike?
playlist though. Yeah, they're making a roguelike.
Windblown.
They left the
Windblown.
team. Windblown, yeah, and they previously made.
No, that game is from Motion Twin. You're thinking of the Prince of Persia game from Evil Twin.
That's the Dead Cells family tree.
Dead Cells.
Yeah,
That's the game.
Yeah.
Their previous Dead Cells team, right? And they splintered off, and they're making a new roguelike, which is Windblown. But that's like only a specific portion of the team that made Dead Cells. So
I think
they're splitting off and doing different things.
The Prince of Persia example is a perfect example of a franchise I love, Prince of Persia, and 2 new games came out. And one is one of my favorite games of the last few years in The Lost Crown, and the other was this roguelike that I just memory hold. I forgot existed until right now. So I just feel like that's how when I
It's in early access, to be fair.
yeah, well, I don't know when it comes out. Like, I haven't heard anyone talk about it, right? Like, whereas The Lost Crown, we're still kind of trying to get more people to play it, even if you hate Ubisoft. Like, this game's really fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Prince of Persia. Alex Armstrong, thank you so much for a $2 dono. Thanks to Discovery Q for informing me about Haste. Thank you so much for watching, Alex. Yeah, if you didn't check it out, Casey and I put together the first of a new kind of video where it's like a lightly edited, short 20-ish minute Let's Play of us just jamming through Haste and kind of talk. It's like a mix between hidden gems and a bite size review, but it's kind of in a nice sweet spot. Put it on in the background. You're gonna get some opinions, some spoofs, some goofs. We're definitely gonna do this with more games, especially kind of big indie games coming out. So.
Jay and I will be checking out an RTS for the first time on the channel. Tempest
Ritz?
Rise.
Oh yes.
Ritz crackers?
One of those Ritz
I'm
crackers, dude.
I'm gonna tell you guys the Ritz crackers if you keep playing RTS. Prize Fighter, thank you so much for a $10 dono. Gotcha games like Zenless Zone Zero let you set your own difficulty and modifiers before going into a roguelike room selection in combat. It's fun stuff. More games should try letting you choose your own starting point. The Supergiant games do a little bit of that. They have those kind of like all of their games have those kind of difficulty modifiers, if that's what you're talking about, Prize Fighter, to where you can make challenges harder for yourself and like toggle a bunch of things on and off. And usually there's like a risk reward to it where you get more things. I usually don't futz with that because that seems too hard. But
that's the peak of or I guess the trough of the inverse difficulty curve that you were talking about. It's once you get to that trough, it is up to you, the player, to then apply your own new peak to reach through those difficulty modifiers. But doing it on the other side, Prize Fighter, like you were saying, is an interesting alternative, which I think will do better to get people into the space, as long as like removing those modifiers and having it get harder is also an option for the player.
I think it especially works for the sort of a gacha game like Zenless Zone Zero that's kind of meant to be played forever. So yeah, that checks out. Forever. Fox D with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Fox D. Combining a city builder with a tower defense game sounds like a nightmare. That's a whole different target audience from SimCity or City Skylines. I agree with that, but I don't think city building and tower defense are. I feel like they live in the same neighborhood of genres.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think they're like crazy different. I mean, granted, they're literally kind of, you have different goals in both of them, but those are things that kind of check out.
Yeah,
I think it works.
Go play Diplomacy is not an option, and then come back and see what you say.
I think it
also,
just like
it's that game
just
that
like
Eric's
with
showing on
Blueprints.
screen, Thronefall, very fun.
That wasn't Nordhole.
No, that wasn't.
This wasn't Nordhole.
This is
Diplomacy
Diplomacy is not an
Nordhole.
option.
This seems like so much clicking. You're doing so much clicking. If someone were to like, put their ear into your room,
interacting with my game.
Yeah, just hear so much clicking. Let me just use my fingers in my Kinect game.
I think it's a natural evolution, just like Blueprints is, of two genres smashing together. I think the idea of placing down your like building your city and then building its defenses so that you care if things are getting in and destroying the things you've built and have made. Like, oh, I made this nice little town in the corner because that's where the orphanage is. Oh no, the trolls! Fuck! You care about that stuff. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess if you just want to like chill out and make a nice little town and not have anything bad happen to it, that might not be the speed where you're suddenly like, oh god, they're the barbarians.
Yeah, then go play the game.
You know that going in, yeah.
Sure, yeah.
If you don't know that going in, you should probably research your games a little bit more.
I think I've said I want a Jurassic Park game where they just market it as a cozy park builder, and that's all they've ever showed off.
Parkosaurus.
Exists, right?
Let me finish the sentence, you sons of bitches.
No, sorry.
You're building your park. You're setting everything. You do the layout. You're putting the dinos in places and everything. You got your scientists. You got your snacks and everything. Halfway through the game, there's a containment breach, and it all of a sudden shifts the point of view. You are a person who visited the park, and it now becomes a survival horror game where you need to get the fuck out of the park you made. Because the goddamn dinos are there. But you know what? You know the layout. You built the goddamn thing so you can get out.
Oh, that's actually tight. I really like that.
Think about it.
Video game designer. I don't understand how the
you
Jurassic World Evolution games haven't done that. It's already there for it.
Right there.
It literally, it's spelled out in the movies, like as the formula. It's one of these things just like, why hasn't this been done before?
No.
Damn.
Shout out to dinos. Mopman, thank you so much. Using the green message. Ooh, that was colorblind. I pulled the J right there. To say, any of you fellows play the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games or any other Mystery Dungeon game? Probably the most successful roguelite series in AAA. I've played, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I've played some of the Chocobo Mystery Dungeon. I've played some Shiren the Wanderer. I guess those are probably some of the biggest ones from.
They're pretty.
Using AAA IP. They feel like they feel like the AA games of AAA IP. If that makes any sense. Like these aren't like the mainline Pokemon games or anything, but Shiren the Wanderer, especially the last one, there's people I know who went fucking gaga over it.
Yeah,
kids come up to me with tears in their eyes and they say, "Sir, we want to play Shiren."
I've not played those, even like as a big Pokemon fan who owns a lot of them. I never really dabbled into the spin-off games. I guess I played a lot of Pokemon Ranger. That's a lot of spinning. There's a lot of stylus spinning, but never the mystery dungeon games.
You ever play Pokemon Snap?
Yeah, I played Snap as a kid.
You ever play a one Pikachu game where you got to yell at him?
That's all Pokemon games for me.
Pikachu, get off the furniture.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
use potions or like any TMs. I just scream at my Pokemon and hope. I have never got very far in the games.
You're like a baseball, like a father of a young baseball player who's just yelling in the stands. You're like, sir, those kids are 8. Why are you screaming at them? Why
Yeah,
are you
what are
drunk
you
at 2 in
doing?
the afternoon?
Oh, my God.
Phantom of the Night with a $10 dono. Thank you so much, Phantom of the Night. Blueprints' RNG works well due to how you're constantly learning things when you look at everything with a very keen eye. It's one of the few games I actually needed to write down notes for. Yeah, it's kind of let yourself. I've noticed a couple people anecdotally have said, first off, well, Blueprints is a victim of every critic loves it, which means the expectations are too high. Undoubtedly, people are going to go in and be disappointed. And it's not like we didn't have a meeting getting together and being like, all right, everyone, the Illuminati is going to love this game now. It just so happens we all separately loved it and started loving on it at the same time. But also, I've seen anecdotally a lot of people play like a day or two, in-game day or two, which is like 20 minutes or whatever, and be like, I don't really get this, but then be like, I spent another hour or two and it clicked. And for me, there was a very specific moment in the demo where it clicked, and it was unlocking the first of my permanent upgrades where I was like, oh, okay, now I know what we're doing. I'm fucking all in. So not saying, maybe you just don't like the game, but also give it a smidge, especially if you picked it up for, free on one of the services.
Yeah,
that's what I'm seeing on the comments on my essay. Is like most people that like put it down were like after 3 or 5 in-game days and just didn't get it and didn't understand like the progression loop of it. And then the people that have spent hours in it are like, I love it.
Yeah. Again, it's
like
not for
people
everyone, so it's possible you just never click.
JH says, what is an acceptable amount of time for that click to happen? I think like Blueprints is like, that's hard to have that discussion.
You just said Jay says, and I thought you were just speaking for Jay, and I'm like, Jay's here. You can speak
because I was like mid-sentence when he said that.
His internet cut out again, and I only heard him from the ether.
He's the only person who heard it. It is. I agree with Nick. It's a difficult thing to talk about. Like, when should that happen? It's also the kind of similar instance of we've thrown criticism at people defending games when they say, "Oh, you need to get through the first 12 hours to get to the good part." Games shouldn't do that. But it is the scalability and the kind of information gathering nature of Blueprints means that time frame is going to be different for everyone. You could solve a puzzle the first time you go in and be satisfied and be like, I get it. Or you couldn't solve it for tens, hundreds of hours, depending on how closely you look at things. If you don't pick up any paper. Did you know there's an achievement for getting to the final room without picking up anything? How is that possible? As someone who's completed it, how is that possible?
Without picking up like a key or a gem?
Don't pick anything up.
Oh, you do that. Maybe you get
Good question.
Maybe you get a grappling hook at some point. You could just climb to the.
Just no clip through the game.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my God, yeah.
I'm definitely. This is one of those games like Animal Well. I'm very curious to like dig once like the true sickos have had their time with it to dig into it and be like, I had no idea any of this stuff existed, which is always fun.
Yeah,
Hands up if you're a true sicko in the chat.
Yeah,
Tunda said in my interview with him, he thinks people will solve everything. So
sure. I would never bet against the internet when it comes to things like that.
Well, Billy Bass.
I don't think there's any ARG stuff in the game.
Yeah. Can't hide things anymore. Fox D with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Fox D. Nick, you've played Tape to Tape. The game, to me, is held back by trying to be a hockey roguelite when it should just be a straight-up sports game. Thoughts?
No, because we have lots of... Well, we don't have enough hockey games anymore because EA owns everything. But
did you record that hockey footage you're supposed to record?
I'm going to after this. I had a massive headache.
Did you get the shorts scheduled?
It's elevated by being a hockey game as a tape roguelite. Fuck off.
It's just like when Yahtzee asked him about publishers. He's like, "You're the master at changing topics, Nick. You're like, you're so good at like hearing something and moving it to another
You
topic."
just started. Public shaming is the only way I need to do it.
I get told things go in one ear out the other. Yeah,
I know, that's why I just fucking repeat it over and over and publicly shame you.
got a different set of ears.
I'm gonna
in a
write on
different
your
room.
garage. I'm gonna write. Did you schedule the shorts on your garage?
I have alarms on my phone that tell me to do things, and I still don't do it.
I think you have ADD. I think you need ADD medication. I think that's a problem.
I actually might.
Yeah. Alex Armstrong with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, Alex. Thoughts on the original Binding of Isaac? I wish we had Yahtzee and or especially Jack here, because I know that is one of Jack's favorite games of all time. I think it's ugly. I think it's ugly, and I don't like being there.
I went back and played. I can't remember what it's called now. One of the earlier Brotato. It looks a lot like kind of the art style of that. So I should probably go back and go back and play the game that kind of really kicked off the genre.
I played it I played a lot of roguelikes roguelites before I went back to it. It was like one of me kind of doing a homage stop off at the thing that started it all. So I was like, oh wow, I can see why this inspired all of this love and creating a new genre, but it didn't like blow me away. But that's because it's like going back and watching Citizen Kane. It's like,
sure,
I get that it set all of this up, but like by the standard of where we've got in the next 15 years, right? It's
no. Also, what do you care about dumb sled for? No one likes sleds. Do kids even sled anymore?
No, that's the problem with today's society. Kids don't sled anymore.
So
not enough sledding
here in Missouri.
Damn.
Oh my god.
Misery sledding. Witticism with a $5 dono. Thank you so much. Witticism. My local cinema is doing their Mondays with Marty series of Scorsese films. I thought it was funny. I've had Marty on Mondays for quite a while now. That sounds delightful. Witticism. I'm gonna be there. And I'm going to get to the front of the theater and start to introduce the movies, and a movie theater employee is going to ask me to sit down because I do not work there and I shouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's also a good chance that Darren might actually just be there. He's a weird cryptid that just like teleports around the planet at different films.
He is a weird cryptid.
Things.
Shout out to Darren. Easta Calden with a £2 dono. Thank you so much. Easta JM8, were the blueprints color puzzles a problem for you? Oh, I brought this up earlier. Your color blindness.
I am indeed colorblind. I'm red-green colorblind, which doesn't mean I can't see red and green. As some people think, it's like a blending of colors and shades when they're near each other. Protopanopia. And yes, there's some instances of these are like small spoilers, very small. But there's the math puzzle in the billiard room that on the board. I struggle to see the difference between a lot of the colors there. Mm-hmm. And then there is another puzzle that is tied to unlocking a permanent upgrade. That is all to do with colors and like changing the colors in a sequence of things. And two of the shades are extremely similar to me. Like they look exactly the same. So I really struggled with that. I'm not joking, like 45 minutes sat in that room just pressing those buttons. I knew the solution. This was the problem. Like, time to discovery to solution and implementation. I knew what to do. I had all the information, but couldn't do it because I kept
a non-colorblind surrogate. Can you like Craigslist? I need someone to come over to my house for
please.
But
she really wants to play it.
Yeah. Jess, I need you.
Yeah.
Gotta tap you in. That's funny.
Yeah.
Maho back again with a $2 dono. Thank you so much. Anyone try Nubby's Number Factory? It is juicy as fuck. Nick, you've put about 100 hours in a Nubby's Number Factory, right?
Yeah.
No.
A Plinko style roguelike. Oh, this game looks so ugly. I love it. Oh my god, and it has so many overwhelmingly positive numbers. This game looks so ugly.
It does.
I love it.
This looks kind of like a uglier version of Billionaire.
Billionaire, yeah. This looks like a game you'd find in like Microsoft Encarta 98.
It looks like a game you'd get free in a cereal box.
Yes, I have wishlisted. I didn't just straight up buy it. It has a demo. I'll play the demo. I'm excited for Nubby.
Oh man, you know what I need a roguelike of? Hexen. Or Hexic. That free game that you got.
Hexen or Hexic?
I don't remember.
Demon Killer one or
the puzzle one that came with
Hexic.
Xbox Live Arcade.
Hexic.
Yeah, we need a roguelike version of that.
Or just a new Hexic? Puzzle games are already roguelike. It's just a bunch of random shit.
You're a roguelike.
I mean, I am a little bit different every day. Aren't we all?
And your closet being broken is your permanent progression upgrade.
There you go. Yeah. Sovereign with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, Haas. Sovereign, do games like Lethal Company and Repo count as roguelikes / lights? I never hear them mentioned as such, but they can handle runs in a similar way.
Yeah, I guess they have all the elements.
It's like Phasmo, yeah.
Randomness, no permanent upgrades. Yeah, they're roguelikes.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, Lethal Company was developed by Landfall, the same folks who made Haste, so they were probably dabbling in that.
This is why genre is bullshit, because you could describe a lot of games as roguelikes. You could describe Portal as an FPS. There's a gun.
Yeah, a literal gun.
You shoot things.
Yeah,
but it shouldn't be described as that, but you can.
When I was like, a lot of games have like random RNG and stuff, random loot and random battles and RPGs. I was going to start saying all JRPGs are roguelikes and see what people say. Earthbound's my favorite roguelike.
You're going to get stabbed, dude.
Stabbed?
Yeah, stabbed by a weeb, which is the worst way to get stabbed. It's stabbed by a Morgul
you felt
blade.
The touch of my blade. Shout out to Weeps. Fungus Finder, $2 dono. Thank you so much, Fungus Finder. I haven't seen a safe in Blueprints. I'm on day 20. Am I a dum-dum? No, you're not a dum-dum.
There are quite a few safes.
Yeah, but it's possible. Like the safe I'm thinking of.
Look harder.
I find for a little while. Yeah. But you also might be a dum-dum, Fungus Finder.
There's a safe in a room. This is like not a spoiler. There's a safe in a room you can get very early on, like in the first run, and the solution to opening it is in that room.
Fuck.
Right,
I know the one. I put the solution in as well, I don't fucking know, and I put it in, and I was like, I was right.
Eric, stop showing these images. These are spoilers.
Eric,
bad Eric.
Put
a filter on yourself.
Naughty boy. But like. A lot of the early rooms you get, because I know a lot of the how you unlock things and what you get in your first few runs is all obviously seeded and handcrafted. There's a lot of safes and they're all openable. A lot, not all, but some puzzles are solvable by the thing that's in that room, but not most of them.
There you go. Far too many frogs with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, frogs. This episode feels like Firelink with JM8 for KC. You know what? If this is Firelink, Eric, throw up that little video of the cow from Mario Kart.
Oh, not more
Get them Monday
are you gonna main the cow?
Monday titties out here. Jay, what would you think a Mario Kart cow's titties would look like?
Like kind of bulbous.
You see them now? Do you see them? Are you looking the bottom right?
No, they're not. They're not. What? That is fucking bad.
That's the power of the Switch 2 dog.
Bulbous.
That's the power of the Switch 2 dog.
Do you know, like you think of a cow's udders, right? They've got those. They've got that kind of body, that round body, which is kind of like a breast, and then they've got those long kind of like nipple things. Yeah. He's just got the nips. He ain't got the bulbous bag. All right, Mario Kart Worlds needs more bulbous bags, hands down. Hashtag bulbous bags.
Hashtag bulbous bags. I'm really excited for this game. I will pay.
Yeah, we know why.
Dude, I'm gonna play this. Marty, we need to do a Mario Kart stream as soon as it comes out. We gotta jump on this shit.
Oops, all cows. Yeah, that sounds great. Sussy Guru with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, Sussy Guru. Have there ever been games that had? Oh, I bit my own tongue while I was speaking. Have there ever been games? I was thinking about that cow. If I'm being honest, have there ever been games that had the option to use more than 2 screens? For example, have the map open on the other screen at all times, like on PC?
EVE Online.
There's been a game series that I've been doing a lot of research into recently for reasons, called Etrian Odyssey, which is a DS
Etrian Odyssey,
series where you have the map underneath on the second screen of the DS and the progression on the top. Like this, it does some interesting things. I don't know. I don't think a game's done note taking in game super well yet. Like, or maybe I don't know of one yet.
I think Etrian Odyssey and it's the exact same formula, but Persona Q, which is Etrian Odyssey, but with Persona characters, that do the same thing where you enter a dungeon floor and your map is completely blank on the bottom screen and you fill it out manually with your stylus, which is why those games worked so well for the DS. Yeah, I kind of love it. Yeah, I guess I never thought Nintendo made a whole goddamn console with two screens.
Yeah, if anybody in chat knows of games that do interesting things with the map and or note taking, send me a message.
I will send you a message.
Please do, Nick. I messaged you yesterday and you didn't respond. I asked you about Exoborn.
He's too busy looking at that cow.
I'll be honest. I guarantee you, Nick hasn't even opened that message.
No, actually, I did.
You fucker!
Didn't respond. Even worse.
I was asking to play games with you, you bitch.
Adam Osakowski. Everyone be good. Adam gave us money. Adam Osakowski, thank you so much for the 5. With a £5 dono. JM8, question from me in the flatmate. On your Design Delve videos, are the doggy voices actually Ludo recorded by any chance? I love all the content.
Hey, thank you so much,
Let's
Adam.
see how the sausage is made.
Half of them are. I did like a stream a while ago where I was like animating and I was explaining this. Half of the barks are Ludo, half of them aren't. They're like from a sound library that I own. Mainly because Ludo, until she came to America, never barked. She was extremely quiet. She would just potter around the house and do her things. Even when she got excited, she would growl. Like if she really likes you, she growls at you. Like she'll go get a toy. And this is because my flatmate, my housemate in England, when he played with Ludo, would growl at her. And she learned that growling was a form of like, play with me, play with me, play with me. So she used to growl, but never barked. But she barks a lot now she's in America. Or as Yahtzee says, she boofs. She's like a halfway between barking and nothing. It's like a... She does that. So.
She's asking, why did you bring me here now?
Did you bring me to this awful country?
Yeah. What have you done? Your timing is terrible.
At least the cow with the large nipples will be here soon. I believe in Doo-Doo Man with a $2 dono. Thank you so much. Unpack DE love hype. Hell yeah. Gurren Lagann episode 7 and 8 review. I just watched episode 7 and 8 yesterday, and let me tell you,
what was the name of that?
Wrecked me. Gurren Lagann, Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann.
Okay.
Anime.
I know it's a very famous anime. I don't know what to tell you. I'm watching it for the first time, and love episode 8. Fucking crushed me. So thanks for forcing me to watch that, everyone, for fucking breaking my heart. It's great. Shout out to Gurren Lagann. I finally did it. I was a coward for a long time, unable to watch it, and I finally done it, and now I like it. Hunter Roge and the Green Gang. Thank you so much, Hunter. Nothing to add. Just keep up the good work. Damn, you know what that was? A Hunter Roge like.
Oh my god.
Was that the best joke of the day?
I think you might have done. I don't know. We'll have to wait till our meeting later.
I think we just we don't even have to read the rest of them. I just between cow titties and that, I think we peaked.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Thank you so much, Hunter. Alex Armstrong with a $2 dono. Thank you, Alex. Android/iOS versions of the Consuming Shadow would be nice. Isn't that a Yahtzee thing? We can't do that.
It's a Yahtzee thing.
Yeah, it's
Yahtzee. You're gonna make those ports, huh? Huh, Yahtzee? When are you gonna make those ports?
He's not here. He's sick. You can't yell at a sick boy.
We have like every week. This is a little bit into the source for people listening. We have like a Second Wind creative meeting every week. It's called the CCC, and we accidentally gave Yahtzee an idea for like a port of or like a mode of Star Trek Vagabond, and he should definitely make it. I'm not going to spoil it because he actually might, but it's like it just made sense when we explained it.
You can make a bill. You can make an absolute bill. He could afford Nubby's Number Factory copies for each of us. I only brought that up
special edition.
Oh my God, Collector's Edition 101. Alex Armstrong with a $2 dono. Thank you, Alex. JM8, American bean substitute for beans on toast.
I haven't had any American beans. Beans on toast is a famous British easy meal.
Baked beans, right?
It's baked beans, but you put them on some toast, maybe a little bit of cheese on top. Oh, if you want to get fancy, you can make cheese on toast, put that into, put the beans in a bowl and dip that in, mate.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not fancy. It's like this is like it's a lazy day. Like it's like eating a microwave meal. It's like you're feeling lazy, but you just want something. You're indulging yourself. Beans on toast. I haven't had American beans apart from like burnt end beans. Burnt end beans on toast.
Are really good with a little BBQ. Look what we did. Little BBQ right there. Asked to forgive Shiva 176516 with a €2 dono. Thank you so much. Ask figures. I need non-random progress in my 2 hours after work with a sad face. I get that. You want to feel if your gaming time is limited and you just got a little slice, you want to be able to feel like you've done something. And to people, a feeling of accomplishment is different. A feeling of accomplishment is I've gone I've beat 3 levels, or I beat this boss, or I've reached a new story point, or I've played a match in FIFA. And to other people's, it's like I did a run. I died at the end, but we're all going to die at the end of life.
Just like autism, gaming taste is a spectrum.
I think that's beautiful. Just like gender, just like sexuality, everything's a spectrum. Except
just like light.
That cow's nipples. Am I right?
Oh fuck yeah! Give me that bulbous bulge.
Alex Armstrong with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Alex Armstrong. High on Life and Borderlands' awkward humor have never clicked with me. I prefer Whedon-esque humor where people talk like Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes, I'm a twat.
At least you realize, Alex. you set us up for that one.
Yeah. I think we can all say that we prefer Sonic the Hedgehog humor. Shout out to Yuji Naka, friend of the show, watching live from prison. Eric with a super chat. Eric, you're going to jail. You're going to be in the fucking cell right next to Yuji.
Spoiled the prince. He put in super chats. Oh my god!
But however, the judge will allow him bail because he put up those cow nipples earlier. So I think that's great. Thank you so much, Eric. Nintendo Game Share with Etrian Odyssey, the main game on the Switch 2, the map on the Switch 1. Imagine the potential of Game Share for unlimited interface and UI potential. I was thinking about it. Part of me was like, I'm not going to sell my Switch 1 because, like, what if someone out there is like going to get freaky deaky and be like, you can play a Switch 2 and use the Switch 1 as your controller, thus having another screen. I don't know if it's going to happen, but
Marty, I promise you, if my game that I'm making right now gets a Switch port, I will do that.
Fuck yeah. Have you ever played the game Contact, Jay? I've never
experienced Contact. I've never been touched. So
without having without knowing anything about your game, there's a game called Contact where what is going on the top screen is very different than what is going on the bottom screen.
Is this a DS game?
This was an original DS game, developed by Grasshopper, published by Atlas in the US. A pretty neat game. I don't know if this has anything to do with what you're doing.
I'm looking it up, and
as you're like, they stole my game, bar for bar.
Oh fuck! This game from 20 years ago.
Sussy Guru with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, Sussy Guru. So America makes even dogs more aggressive. Something in the air or something in the water? Yeah, just a general malaise.
I mean, there's a lot of lead.
I feel sorry for Ludo so much. Like, she's very quiet, and the plane ride over for her was quite traumatic. She hates driving in general. Like, she gets terrified. She shakes. But then she had to sit
super driving.
Yeah, she had to go in like the hold of the cargo hold because they wouldn't let her go on a seat in the plane for 7 hours. Terrifying. She hated that. Sure. She now barks here, and I just got a spade. So they've taken her bits. She's like, America sucks, man.
Yeah.
And you know what,
we haven't even had beans on toast yet.
You know what Jay asked before the podcast started? He said, when they take their bits, where do they put them? Are they just like in a big ball pit somewhere?
A big bin? Yeah, I said, when they take all the dogs' balls, do they have like a ball bin? Like, is it like a special ball bin?
They create one giant ball like the end of Inside.
Oh,
Just rolling down
that's
a hill.
fucking horrible.
Yeah. A Tsunami Doucher, $20, says nothing. Thank you so much, Tsunami Doucher. Great to see you. And
As a
our
jewel.
final super chat of the moment, Fox D with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Fox D. Letting one's autism flag fly is one of the best parts of being a gamer, preferably in single player. Hell yeah, Fox D. That's what I like to hear. And here she is. Little Ludo.
Here she is.
No kibbles and
Who's
bits
that?
for Ludo.
Who's that?
We did it, guys. We made it to the end of a show without Yahtzee, and none of us cried. So I'm very proud.
Not yet.
As a program reminder, Yahtzee should be back on Wednesday for Yahtzee Tries, assuming his ailment doesn't get worse. But obviously that's a smidge TBD. In terms of other programming stuff, later this evening, 6 p.m. Central, check out Hidden Gems. They're going to be playing AI Limit. Looks a little weeby, might even be a little horny. Who knows? You guys will have to figure out for us. We'll have a new rewind tomorrow at the normal time at noon Central, where we'll be talking about the Minecraft movie. Nick and Jenna tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central. You guys have a sponsor stream for Stygian. Ooh, I think I said it right. Stygian. Outer gods. We're going to learn about the gods. The outer gods, the inner gods, all those gods. And then a reminder that if you are at the Phoenix tier in Patreon, we're doing our movie night tomorrow, 5 p.m. Central. So right after work tomorrow for us, tune into that. All the info's in Discord. That's always a fun time. Nick, what do you have going on? You mentioned the Blueprints videos. You got 2 Blueprints videos.
Yeah, if you're a $5 patron or above, I did a interview with Tonda Russ last week. But he's the sole developer on Blueprints, so it was a really fun interview. You can get that exclusively over on Patreon. And then I just did my short essay on the game, talking about its design and how it kind of just never stumps you with a single puzzle like a lot of puzzle games do. So you can check that out. I'll have a new episode of Unpacked out on Friday as usual. And then Jay and I will be recording a discovery queue for Tempest Rising, a new RTS coming out soon. That's very, very reminiscent of Command & Conquer Tiberium Wars, if you like that stuff.
Listen, all you people banging the drum wanting us to cover those clicky games, you better show up for that. We're finally doing a clicky game. You better be
doing
here.
a clicky.
We're doing a clicky.
And then on my personal side of things, I think I'll be getting back into doing some personal streams again. So I'll probably do something tonight. I don't know what channel yet, so I don't know where to send you. I don't know if I'm going to do Twitch or YouTube. We'll find out.
Are you going to play a clicky?
Maybe.
Look them up.
Basketball gaming.
Hell yeah. Jay, what do you got going on?
I've got stuff. There's been a lot of dev heads and stuff like that recently because we had to shift the schedule, but that's gone back to normal. So there's no dev heads this week. It's going to be the following week, and also for Design Delve, that's going to be next Monday. So stick around for that one. Other than that, streams, yeah, I might be on streams in the week. I might not. I don't know. Well, you might see me. You might not. Fuck.
There's really no way to know. This is
Yeah.
real Schrodinger stream right here.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Doo Man, Zack and Clicky. It's a good Zack and Clicky goof. I got my copy of Zack and Wiki right here. If we want to make a Zack and Clicky game, I'm fucking from my shelf, dog. It's from my shelf of holding.
Should we cancel the next Design Delve and just do a Zack and Wiki video?
Zack and Wiki make a porno? That was a weird. Do you remember the movie Zack and Miri make a porno with Seth Rogen? Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Zack and Mary do a clicky?
Yeah. And then Hunter with one last $5 dono. Thank you so much, Hunter Roge. That Roge-like comment made me laugh more than it should. Here's another $5. We got him. The greatest joke of all time.
That was a $5 goof.
The greatest joke of all time. Incredibly stupid. Yeah, thank you all so much for hanging out, for spoofing and goofing with us. We appreciate y'all. So for Jay, for Nick, and for producer Eric, this was Marty. This was Windbreakers episode number 70. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, and we'll see you later tonight for a little Hidden Gems. Bye, everyone.
Eric.
Bye.